What I've learned in the last 5 years, though, is remarkable. I know that from a different perspective, a client paying for a trainer, you get what you pay for, right? So if there's a cheap trainer, you usually are going to get a cheap experience. Same with payroll, right? If you get someone who's less cost, that's great in terms of cost, but what they're going to return is a cheaper investment.
Yeah, less
right?
value.
So and I've learned that if I can find somebody who is all in, so now I look for people that have full-time availability and higher skill set, I'm willing to pay more because of a full-time person who has more skills.
So you have a passion for fitness and the desire to start your own business. But launching a massively successful fitness business is extremely complex. The systems, operations, hiring, firing, coaching, sales, and marketing are critical to success. Where do you even start? This show will give you the answers. Here is Bedros Keuilian and Bryce Henson, your hosts of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms.
Welcome back, friends, to another amazing episode. And before I introduce today's guest, I want to give you a friendly reminder to go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube and write us an awesome review on iTunes. That way we can keep producing this content for you for free. So now today's guest is a dear friend of mine who's also a certified personal trainer who owns and operates Thousand Oaks Fit Body Boot Camp here in Southern California. Now, he just celebrated his 5-year anniversary and has trained thousands of clients of all ages and abilities, from novices all the way to Miss USA Universal. Now, he's also a family man with a loving wife, Leah, and 2 kids who values a work-life balance, which is why he joined Fit Body Boot Camp. Anthony Parisi, my friend, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to be here with you and connect.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, we got a lot of ground to cover today, just about your success as an entrepreneur, being in the fitness industry. Before we dive into that, give our audience the backstory.
Absolutely. So I've always been passionate about fitness and health, and went to college, San Diego State, and degreed in kinesiology, emphasis in athletic training. And it was actually my first year as a student where my internship said that I should become an athletic trainer first and then physical therapist later. And I was actually really happy to have that advice because athletic training was more about performance and fitness, and physical therapy is more about rehab. Mm-hmm. So it helped me find my passion within my passion. So broad spectrum, health is the passion, and then within it is fitness and performance. So I was really happy to have that. And so that degree led me to becoming a personal trainer at a big box gym. And from there, I grew my clientele up, and the organization recognized that. And so I became a fitness manager, and that taught me more managerial skills, sales skills, marketing skills, and retention skills, which then I felt more comfortable to become a personal trainer on my own. I actually started my own company, Parisi Fitness and Rehabilitation, and started that process over again. I had to get more clients, lead to retention, figure out sales, figure out marketing, and then I grew my clientele up to about 25. And at that point, I was putting clients at the same time. And at first, I wasn't sure if it would work, but it actually worked really well. I found that the clients had twice the amount of energy and fun, and I had twice the amount of energy and fun. And that's when I found the need for having my own business, my own gym. And I knew I wanted to be a part of something that had the systems and processes in place. And Fit Body Boot Camp aligned with my vision of fitness family. And ever since then, I started my establishment, and it's been awesome.
Dude, that's awesome. I can't remember, we were talking offline, been friends for over a half a decade right now.
Right.
Can't believe like your 5 year just happened. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. 5 years is a big marker. A lot happens in 5 years, especially the first 5 years.
Oh yeah, half a decade, man.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I'm going to unpack that a little bit because it's interesting. I feel as if some fitness professionals, they have a big transformation. Others, they were kind of, born into athletic family. And some have like the proper schooling in kinesiology like you did at San Diego State, but not all. So can you, before I guess take a step back, can you walk us through what made you interested in physical, kinesiology, athletic movement, and then rehabilitation? Were you always a fit guy growing up, or is this something that you learned at college?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up playing baseball, basketball, football, soccer, lacrosse, tons of sports, and I would go hard. And so that led to injury, and injury led to being in the athletic training room or physical therapy clinic, and just fell in love with the connection I built with the therapist, as well as the efficiency of healing through proper exercise.
Got it. So that was kind of ingrained from you from your childhood.
Right.
So diving in then to San Diego State, you've had an extensive, educational background. Again, not all fitness professionals do. Can you talk about like your classwork, your curriculum, and also too, like how important is that for someone maybe who doesn't have that to be, launch your own business?
Yeah, I would say that having the kinesiology degree is extremely important. I learned a lot. So with athletic training, it's a lot of clinical hours as well. So I would be with football teams, basketball teams, tennis teams, and learning different injuries that are associated with different sports. And then always bringing them back to the athletic training room for the rehabilitation. And fortunately, I had tons of mentors, right? My professors were my mentors, but my clinical instructors were my mentors. And they taught me how to do things properly, which led to more results.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. And then obviously then once you had that experience, then you felt obviously from an education perspective more confident to then work at a big box gym. But then as we just talked about, you learned a lot of the actual business skills on how to attract clients, your marketing, sell clients, and how to train clients within that experience. Is that fair to say?
Definitely, yes.
On that note, what would you say, like, how did you have that confidence to basically take that next step? Because a lot of people, they don't, maybe they can learn something in theory,
right,
but to actually be able to take a step and, work, as an independent personal trainer, even launch your business, like, where did that confidence come from?
I took the necessary baby steps. So I got the degree first and then became a trainer at a big box gym, and they helped me learn how to sell. And then I got another certification, which really just gave me the mental confidence that I could start my own company, but also mentors really helped out. If I didn't have a mentor that showed me the business behind starting my own personal training company, I would have been lost, and he created guidance. So having him help me create my Parisi fitness and rehabilitation business. And then I grew my clientele up one after another to the point where I was putting them at the same time. So didn't have a lot of overhead. At that time, I was just paying rent out of facilities. Mm-hmm. So if I wasn't working there, I wasn't paying money, and that's a good stress relief. Mm-hmm. And so then after that, where I felt confident to be on a lease and join a franchise, I did that, and I did do that with my client at the time who became my business partner.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's talk about that. So now kind of fast forward, you've acquired the necessary experience, taking the step-ladder approach from the education perspective, from the clinical perspective, from the experience, starting your personal training business. Now you're going to launch a full-on, gym, like a Fit Body Bootcamp franchise. You had a partner.
Yes.
And from what I know, about a year after your partnership, you ended up separating and buying your partner out. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So walk us through that. Especially a lot of our audience is interested in opening a facility, and maybe they're considering opening a partner. And I know your partner, and she's a very sweet lady. But partnerships are tough, right? Yeah. So, how did that, play out? And then what would you say, like some learning lessons along the way when starting out a business with a business partner?
Absolutely. So Thelma is her name, and she is wonderful. She was my client at the time, and she was looking for something to invest in. And I always wanted that passion for owning my own place. So it seemed like the right fit. But as you said, having a partner is really tough. And so there's good and bad with it, right? Because of her, I was able to start Fit Body Bootcamp, right? But we probably should have had more structure in terms of who's responsible for what, and different ownership levels. Mm-hmm. For instance, we are 50-50 partners, so if we had a disagreement, it's like who prevails. So I would suggest if you are going to do a partnership, make sure you each have your distinct roles, and I would suggest having one person be the majority and the other not. So that way, if you guys have a difference of opinion, then the person who has the higher percent of the partnership would prevail.
Yeah, not if, when. That's just like inevitable, right?
Yeah.
And I can share a little bit of that, Anthony, too, because I've started a few different businesses with some partners, one a family member, but to our credit, we put everything in writing. Those responsibilities were laid down, and to your point, there wasn't a 50-50 split. There was one partner, myself, had a bit more equity in the case that, friction or decisions need to be made, because let's face it, like part of the human existence, you're not going to see eye to eye on every single thing. Right. So I validate that point. It's super important to have that.
Yes. I remember the day we met with our attorney to sign the agreement. He said, just so you know, a 50-50 partnership is very challenging. I was like, I wish I had that advice earlier. And again, Thelma's a sweetheart, right? So it's just people, as you said, human nature, we can't see eye to eye on everything.
Yeah.
But I would even suggest if two individuals one has the opportunity to be an investor rather than a partner. Like, I think Thelma and I could have succeeded for a much longer time if she would just stayed investor
Got it.
and I was the business owner.
Yeah, and that just kind of goes back to a bit of human nature to begin
Right.
with. So on that, and I don't want to beat it at a horse, but I think there's just a lot of value for our audience because, again, this is a very common thing. People go into business
Right.
partners together. When you kind of realize, and you don't have to go through the specifics, but when you realize, hey, you know what, it's actually best that I buy my partner out, Thelma out. Like, how did that work? Like, what was the process? How long did it take? And again, you don't have to go with any specifics or granularity to keep the agreement confidential, but just looking big picture
Right.
so that way our audience can kind of see, okay, if something like this were to happen, use you as a model.
Right. I think over time, you could tell that she wasn't happy there. And it was because we weren't getting along or because she had other things in her personal life. So she actually went to a Fit Body boot camp. It was the perfect day formula.
Okay.
And so after she came back from that, she shared with me that she realized that this isn't her passion and she was ready to sell. And I said, I appreciate that, I respect that, and I was willing to buy.
Okay.
So it worked out nicely for both of us.
Oh, nice. And how long from the time that she communicated till,
Everything takes time, right?
Yeah.
Especially when attorneys are involved. So it was probably a 6-month process.
Got it. And I just bring this point out because especially a lot of young business owners, they think things are going to happen so quickly. So I just wanted to also set expectation. And truth be told, I was expecting you to say like 12 or 18 months. So that's actually quicker than I thought.
That's true. I'm trying to put it into perspective. It was a while ago. It was 2017, so I had to think back quite a while. But I would say for sure, whenever there's attorneys involved, it will take time, and 6 months is fast. I think 6 to 18 months is a better expectation for dissolving a partnership or starting a partnership. I'd actually say spend more time starting the partnership so people understand their roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, amen. Sage advice.
And I would also say don't go into partnership with someone who has the same skill set as you. You need somebody who has the opposite skill set.
100%. What, like, I don't want to hijack it. From your perspective, why is that so important?
If we're both really good at training, but neither of us are good at HR and sales, we will fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree in the sense that partnership does make sense. It's important to have like alternate type of skill sets in order to make it work. Otherwise, the point of that partnership, I guess it doesn't have as much value. And I'll speak from my own, chord. Not only do I serve our franchise as our CEO, but having 2 locations, and my wife and I are 2 owners of the company. Our vice president as well kind of helps us run. But both of them have very different skill sets than me. They're very analytical, slow, methodical, and I'm looking at the big picture, but it works out really well. If both of us were kind of in that same skill set, I think it would be very challenging. But to your point, because we bring different things to the table, the working relationships works extremely well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So kind of high level, we talked a little bit about the base and the structure of us getting to that, your facility. Let's talk about, the first 12 months of you, launching your business, now taking on rent. How did that go? I want to hear some like highlights and also too, some challenges along the way. Because let's face it, no business owner, no entrepreneur gets through without any sort of massive challenge.
All right. So fortunately, I had my own personal training clients. So I had quick clients come from day one. And I was very happy for that, but it is a slow process. At least back in the day it was slow. I know Fit Body Bootcamp has the launch program now, and I'm sure it's much easier to build your clientele up, but you have to do whatever it takes, and so whatever it takes meant to absorb as much knowledge as Fit Body Bootcamp had, and it was advertised on Facebook. And I'm super happy we did because that brought in new clients. We also advertised on Groupon. But it's so hard, right? You're like, what time should I have my sessions? How many sessions a day should I have? At that time, we were also debating, do we want open hours or do we just want to be open during boot camp sessions? So I'd say follow the model, right? Fit Body Bootcamp created a very simple model, just have your boot camp sessions, and it's much easier to have enough personnel for that. Mm-hmm. I believe it's like 3 people is the Fit Body model. Mm-hmm. You can run a successful Fit Body Bootcamp location with 3 people. Obviously, as you grow and you have more sessions, you'll need more. But
that's a good
when
problem
you're
to have.
First starting in your 12 months, if you can have less employees, that's less payroll. But at some point, there's that like balance where you need more employees to get more members.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the early days. And you're right, just like any successful franchise, we've, grown exponentially. And even 5 years ago, the grand opening program we have, which is a launch program, is night and day than what it was back then. Even when, you and I first joined, it's really comforting to see owners, crank out 1,000 leads and start with 100 challengers, which is different than we started back then.
Right.
But that all said, what were those first, days like? What was your role? Were you training? Were you coaching? Were you in marketing? I would imagine most of it, but would love to hear more.
I definitely was doing all of the above. We did have some trainers as well, but I knew I needed to be involved with the coaching. That is my passion. I love coaching and I love personal training. So I was very much involved with that. And we were toying with one-on-one orientations, which I think is fantastic. So basically now the strategy session is what we're calling them.
Yep.
But then we explored the group orientation. And it was fun to have both of them. I definitely learned my skill set was in relationship building because I was able to connect with people and learn what their desires were. And so in this case, it's their fitness goals. And I felt confidently that I was the solution to their problems. And so that did lead to increasing our membership pretty quickly.
Let's talk about that a little bit more because I actually had a note and it's interesting. I mean, you're a fit guy, you're a very smart guy, been friends for a very long time, and you have a athletic background, which is huge. On the other hand, though, it's interesting. One of my most credentialed coaches of all time, 4-year kinesiology, plenty of personal training experience, accolades, his resume was impressive, had just a hard time connecting with people and therefore wasn't a successful coach. Great guy, still care about him, but just unfortunately didn't work. I feel like one of your skill sets in your zone of genius is your ability to connect with people and be personable. So can you talk a little bit about that aspect, why it's important, how you've continued to develop that aspect of you and share more?
Yeah, it's absolutely important, and it's important in many levels. If we're just talking about the member's perspective, you need to show these members that you care about them and that you truly want them to have a good experience, and that experience will come from getting better results, but also the customer experience, like customer service. So we try to present a really good impression when they walk in. We greet them by name. When we're working out, we know what their injuries are, we know what their goals are, and then afterwards we do our team cheer. And so everything is designed about having a high energy, motivational environment.
And that personal touch, talk about knowing clients' names, and really that's the foundation of deep relationships as culture, and that's definitely, from my outside eyes looking in, a big reason why you've been so successful.
Thank you. And then it makes it more fun. I coach to this day because it's enjoyable for me. And even yesterday, everyone in my session, I had a full class, and I knew everyone's first and last name. And I was just started calling them by their first name, and then I started calling them by their last name, and they all start laughing because I think it's very unusual for someone to know everyone's first and last name.
Totally. That's a huge separator and game changer.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that we've also, connected on is when you were just saying that, you first start out, you're doing a lot of things, and you're doing the coaching, you're in the training, you're in the marketing, you're the customer service, all that. But then it kind of hits a tipping point where you actually do need to bring on payroll, because at first it's an advantage, but when you have more clientele, you actually need to staff up. And I know one of the big reasons that you've been successful is you're able to lead and manage your team. So can you talk about, what it's been like to develop your leadership skills, develop your mentorship skills, and then also just talk about your recruiting process?
Yes. I feel like I'm still learning. So what I've learned in the last 5 years, though, is remarkable. I know that from a different perspective, a client paying for a trainer, you get what you pay for, right? So if there's a cheap trainer, you usually are going to get a cheap experience. Same with payroll, right? If you get someone who's less cost, that's great in terms of cost, but what they're going to return is a cheaper investment.
Yeah, less value.
So and I've learned that if I can find somebody who is all in, so now I look for people that have full-time availability and higher skill set, I'm willing to pay more because of a full-time person who has more skills. And that to me has helped my business grow. It's also been a lot less stressful for me because I know that if I'm not there, that the business is in good hands with a professional person.
Yeah. How do you develop them though? Because it's one thing, you want to make sure they're credentialed and they have the skill set. But to your point, you want to make sure that they're taking care of the business, as close as possible. Probably never to your point of view, being the business owner, but as close as possible. How do you indoctrinate them into your culture? How do you build a strong relationship with them so that way they're bought in, they're invested?
So I spend a lot of time with them myself in their first few weeks to months, and that is to teach them our vision, which is to exceed expectations and to drive change. Also, I want to really drive in that we're looking for results and a positive experience. So if I can be with either an ops person, facility coordinator, or a coach, I can develop both their skill sets so they understand the vision and the purpose, and they are aligned with that. So being hands-on with them to teach them systems and processes is really important. And to this day, I do 2 meetings a week with the managers and a meeting every month with the team members.
Interesting. Just to make sure that you're pouring into them, they have strong leadership, mentorship from you, and they're bought into the team and culture.
Yes.
So I'm sure very different than when you first started, but let's talk about that. You're expecting your second baby on the way. Congratulations,
yes, thank
which is incredible. Probably by the time this airs, you'll already have him. But let's talk about your schedule now. Like, what does that look like? You said you do coaching as well. Curious what the schedule of Anthony Parisi is now, 5 years removed from opening his business. Also knowing that we went through a crazy adjustment with COVID, which we'll get to in a second, a few other things. But what's your current day-to-day look like?
So 5 years is exciting, but it's still new. So I had a wonderful full team, and with the full team, I was able to work less hours. Right now, I'm in the hiring phase, so I'm working more hours. But Monday through Friday, I do wake up at 5 a.m. and I have clients that I actually will do in the morning. So I do my coaching Monday and Wednesday.
Okay.
And then after 2 sessions, I go into a manager's meeting on Monday. And that actually lasts about 2 hours.
About midday or?
Mid-morning, 10:15 is what time we start.
Okay.
So right after the boot camps, we say goodbye to the clients, and then we go into our meeting. So that's specifically Monday. And then midday is a little bit easier. I can take off. In fact, that's where I get my own personal workout. And then back in the evening, I have to leave at 4:45 now because I got the little one and one on the way. So it's nice to have the team support that, knowing, okay, Anthony's gone before the afternoon sessions come, and they will take care of the shop.
Awesome. How about Saturdays? Are you checking
Saturdays, I'm every other Saturday. So again, I love coaching, and I feel like coaching is a really good way to build a relationship with the members. So I tried not coaching a Saturday, but the members really liked it, and I really like it as well. So I do every other Saturday. My lead coach does the alternate Saturday with me, and so they're getting a solid coach from the lead coach when he does it, and then they have me on the other Saturday.
Awesome. Is that relationship, and that is just so important. And I think scaling, having visibility to myself who scale a few locations and other owners who have, there's nothing that replaces that in-person connection from the owner, because the owner just cares the most about the organization. So it's no secret why you have such a strong culture, strong relationships, because you're connecting with your people.
Absolutely. And I feel like I have different energies. If I'm in the office doing a strategy session, it's probably a little bit like this, or even less. But if I'm on the floor, it's like amplified, kind of like when you're on stage. So everyone gets a kick out of it, and they have a joke, like they say, I tell dad jokes now, and I'm all for it.
Nice.
Yeah,
you got to throw on. It's a performance. You're inner training them, right? So you got to flip on a different switch for sure. Now, speaking of which, before we hit COVID, because I want to get some insight on how your location and certainly brand wide we navigated it. But we talked about you being a family man, having your second baby on the way. Now, I don't believe Leah works directly in the business, but can you talk a little bit about just how you as a family man having to kind of balance the schedules, and also too, how your wife's support into the business endeavor has been important, because let's face it, our audience most times when they go into an entrepreneurial endeavor, whether their spouse is actually working in the business or just they're supporting, you have to have some level of support. Otherwise, after time, it erodes. Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect of your business ownership? Leah's
extremely supportive. So we got married in 2016, and literally the month prior to getting married, I opened up the Fit Body Bootcamp. So we put a lot on our plates right out of the gate, but you definitely need to have good communication and support, because they're for 5 years, I say I'll be home at 5, but we're not able to just clock out, right? If there's somebody there, it's a relationship business. I can't just leave, even though I try really hard. They're like, wait, I wanted to tell you something. And I'll stay and listen. But she's extremely supportive, and she cares deeply, just like I do, about helping people live a happier, healthier lifestyle. Fortunately, she's a doctor in physical therapy, so we share that passion.
Oh, nice. That's huge, though, because my wife works in my business, but regardless whether she worked in or out, having that collaboration and just seeing the eye to eye is just, it's needed, because let's face it, running a business can be sometimes like running, you're in war, you're war against the city and the landlord and, all this stuff that's just the pressure keeps coming down. So you definitely need a good support system, which it sounds like you have.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend, transitioning, we touched on this, but I know we talked a little bit offline, but how you managed through COVID. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. And certainly from a franchise perspective, we provided, a lot of content, resources, et cetera. But, every location, did things depending on their local jurisdiction, had to do some things a little bit differently. So I was curious on what that looked like. And I also know that you moved your location recently. So can you talk a little bit about high level about those two projects?
Yeah, definitely. So I was always interested in relocating to this one particular location. So I started in Thousand Oaks, California, and then I moved to Westlake Village. And that was March of 2019. So just when we started hearing about COVID-19, I was looking at relocating.
March of 2020 or 2019?
2019.
So the year before. Okay.
Yeah. But we knew of COVID. It was starting to come to the U.S., but we didn't know what this beast was really going to be.
Yep.
Anyways, I wanted to relocate with or without COVID happening, just because my original location was very expensive. And so this other location gave me the ability to have more space, and I was sharing space with another company. So I was able to reduce the rent. So that's one topic, right? And then your topic of COVID. COVID is just, it was a monster, and we didn't
Actually,
know.
before we hit in that, because I think there's some good learning lessons in there.
Yeah.
How long did you have did your lease expire by the time you shifted gears, or did you have to cut it short? Kind of what did that process look like?
So I was in a 5-year lease for the first location, but my business neighbor wanted to take over my unit. And I was happy with that because my rent was really high.
Yeah.
And so with the landlord's approval, we were able to make that happen. And I needed a relocation. So I relocated at year 4, even though it was a 5-year lease.
Okay.
Only because I had the landlord's blessing, since the business neighbor was willing to take my spot.
Did they ask you, the neighbor, or did you ask them? Or?
They asked me, which was really, really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just perfect timing in that regard.
Okay, cool. That's a big lesson because, sometimes people do get in leases that necessarily aren't the fit, or they need to extend. So I was just curious in the details of that.
So another friend of mine or an acquaintance of mine, they went into business and they did a 10-year lease, and then COVID happened and they had to close because they just didn't make it. And unfortunately, they were in a 10-year lease, and they're financially binded to that financial obligation. So my recommendation would be to try to get the shortest lease you can with options, meaning get a 5-year lease with multiple 5-year options so that you can stay there for a long time.
Yep.
But if, God forbid, something happens to your business, at least it's 5 years, or maybe you can get 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, sage advice. And granted, no one expected a black swan event like that, but it can't happen.
Right.
All right, so I interjected a little bit before then you
right, those are two big topics, the relocation and COVID. So now talking about COVID.
Yeah.
So we relocated, unfortunately had a parking lot big enough to handle a tent. That was crucial because my first location was not as much parking. So thankfully my parking lot had enough space for a tent. So I got a 12 by 14 foot tent, and we just relocated. So we pulled out the flooring from the first location, and we brought that as our flooring in the tent.
Okay.
And so there was constant evolutions of this. First, I just had the flooring in the tent, and then the sun became an issue, so we had to buy a sunshade, and then the heat became an issue, so we had to buy floor fans.
The life of an entrepreneur.
And then the time change happened, so then we had to invest in lights inside the tent so that we could do our 5:30 p.m. session. So it was pretty crazy and fun to watch and be a part of this transformation. But I think my mission was to have the best boot camp I possibly could. No matter what. I wasn't going to let COVID stop me. I needed to persevere. And I think that's a huge skill for an entrepreneur to have, is perseverance. And as Bezos used to say, be a weed. Be unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And so We had the blue flooring. We socially spaced it out with Velcro so everyone knew their training space. I invested in tons of equipment. I used to have 5 of everything, right? Because we would do stations of 5 people and rotate around the room. Now I had 16 of everything because it just so happened we could fit 16 people in perfectly. And that was an investment. But again, I was willing to do what it took to run a successful outdoor boot camp. Who would have thought?
Crazy.
It was an outdoor boot camp. And so I was kicking myself like, dang it, I just relocated to this location and here I am in a parking lot now. But again, no one knew what we were dealing with, and it lasted. I mean, it's still going on.
It's still in this weird phase as we shoot this video right here. What was, if you don't mind me asking, your new landlord at the new space? Were they cool with you, working outside? Did you have a few tough conversations? What'd that look like?
He was supportive of having the tent. Fortunately, the business neighbors were supportive by probably having to be supportive. I mean, I took over my own parking, right? So we each got an allotment of spots, and so I ate up my parking to have this tent. Worthy though, right? Because otherwise I would have potentially been closed permanently, like we were supposed to be actually shut. So instead of doing that, I moved outside. So he was supportive in that regard. I heard that some landlords would give rent reductions. I didn't receive too much of that, but I am fortunate that he did allow an outdoor tent.
Hey man, do what you can with what you have. So that's like the entrepreneur spirit.
I would say in context to that, even if there's not a pandemic, communication with your landlord is really important. I think if you can build a relationship with that person, then they get to know you on a different level. And so it would work to both of your advantages to have a good communication and better relationship.
Yeah, amen to that. And not only with your landlord, but your team, your clients. I mean, just communication is like the name of the game, especially when you're leading a business at a high level like you do.
Thank you,
All right, so kind of curtailing back into, the day-to-day operations and kind of, taking a step out. If I was to ask you, Anthony, and I have some thoughts, but, 2-part question. What's your zone of genius? Like why you've been so successful to overcome and persevere, et cetera, and to have your location where it is today? And then also what would be your, uniqueness? Like why, what about your program is unique and really brings in clients and, to the level that you've been able to find success?
So with the first question of my zone of genius, I think we kind of hit it with this conversation, but I'd say the coaching and the relationship building. But as a business owner, you have to develop more than 2 zones of geniuses. I now have to know how to sell and market and manage and motivate. And that's not just from members' perspective, but I have to do that with my team members. So you need to become versatile. But back to my zone of genius, if I had to choose, I would say the training and the relationship business, relationship building. And then your second question, what makes my location unique?
Like why do your clients, what would you say if you were interviewing them? What would your clients say, like, man, Thousand Oaks Fit Body Bootcamp, like that's the place to be? Why would they say that?
I think they see how much we pour into them. They appreciate every detail that we think of. We do events like 70s Disco Day, and so everyone dressed up in 70s outfits and we worked out. We get to know them on a personal level. Like knowing their names, it's shocking how valuable that is to somebody. But I get it. Other big box gyms, they're not going to do that. You have your key tag, you log in, you go, and you leave. But we want everyone to feel valued, and we believe in making it the best 30 minutes of their day. So we talked about coaching being a performance, and it absolutely is, right? It's not just going to be the best workout, it's going to be the best experience. We want them to leave feeling better than when they walked in.
Yeah, and let's face it too, like our demographic, and granted you've had an athletic training experience, but the demographic of Fit Body Bootcamp, Mrs. Jones, she, has family and kids. She probably doesn't love working out. She's not trying to shave off a second to make the NFL Combine. She just knows she needs to lose weight and have more confidence. So she comes in, and not only does she need a workout, but she needs someone to provide that awesome experience, motivation, support, and coaching. That way she actually enjoys and it becomes the best part of her day.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend, looking ahead, I kind of took a look back on, your success and what, the formula has been. Where do you see, Thousand Oaks Fit Body Bootcamp, where do you see your organization going in the next 3 to 5 years?
So I really believe in having a well-oiled machine. So I'm still mastering having this one beautifully operated location. And so to me, I want to have 2 full-time people and myself. But I also currently share the location with another business. And I am really excited about taking that over on my own because I think the location is perfect. It's 7,000 square feet. It's got indoor, outdoor training. It's got plenty of parking.
Oh, wow.
It's right off of a main road, which I used to be on the main road, which I thought was cool. But people are just going by it all the time and they don't really see it. So now on the side road, they're driving by slower and I'm actually more visible. So I think I'm planted. I found my home. But my goal would be to, one, find more full-time team members. Two, be the only occupant of that building. Make it even more robust. Like I love the yearly facility fund. I want to add value and upgrades on a yearly basis. And if and when, I should say when, I accomplish all that, I'd like to look at location number 2.
Heck yeah, man. Well done. And, at the end of the day, it's interesting. Like every person, every business owner, every entrepreneur is a little bit different. Some are meant to scale their locations. Some are meant to like run massive facilities that they're the big focus. And, some it's a little bit of both. But it's knowing who you are, what you want to accomplish. And man, you've helped a ton of people already and excited for what the next 3 to 5 years looks like.
Me too. It's exciting too to think that the building is 7,000 square feet. So
that's huge.
Right now we have 200 members, right? We're still in this pandemic. We have 200 members. At one time we had 260. I want to get to the 300s, the 400s, the 500s. If I can do that, I'll be a happy man, knowing that I can help that many people reach their fitness goals.
Oh yeah. That's the name of the game. Grow your impact, and then by default, you grow your income.
Yes, I agree.
All right, my friend, you've been so generous with your time. I want to transition to the lightning round. We'll have a few more minutes if you're up for it.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So this is our opportunity to really unpeel and get more knowledge bombs from our man Anthony here. So I want to take a look back before you've had all the success that you've had today. What was the one thing holding you back for achieving, your business ownership dreams and all the things you've executed? What was the one thing you would say that held you back, and how'd you overcome it?
I'd say just not knowing what can happen, right? There's a fear that happens to not knowing, so you have to take risk. But I think you also want to make sure that it's a risk worth taking. So do your due diligence, right? Know what it's like to go into this lease, especially if it's expensive. Know what your options are. For instance, we talked about how somebody did a 10-year lease and unfortunately now they're not in a good position. So understanding like, oh, okay, I can do a 3-year lease or a 5-year lease. You really have to be knowledgeable in so many different ways. You can't just be your zone of genius if you want to become an entrepreneur. So really doing your homework to understand the business partners or investors or signing a lease. These are really, really important things to help make sure that you're successful.
Yeah, amen to that. And that is the beauty and the curse of running a business. Like the buck stops with you, and there's so many things underneath the umbrella that you have to, whether it be a zone of genius or whether you have to understand enough, because at the end of the day, you're held accountable. So
absolutely.
All right, next up, and I love this question specifically for you because you're a master coach and you've been in the business of giving great advice for many number of years. Anthony, what would you say would be one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received, and why?
Well, first off, thank you. And actually, it's advice that I heard from being in Fit Body Bootcamp Mastermind, and it was that knowledge by itself is not power, and knowledge with implementation is power. And I see this all the time, right? I am surrounded by very smart people, my team members, and I dive into them and I give them more knowledge, and I keep telling them you have to implement, you have to implement, you have to implement. And we're working on it, right? Slowly but surely, each one of them is showing implementation of the things we worked on. But I think that might be one of my skill sets is I go to these masterminds and I implement, and that helps me get to the next level. And so I'm fortunate enough to really like having mentors. I think sometimes people are happy thinking that they know everything, and I'm happy knowing I don't know everything. And so I want to be a sponge, and then I want to implement.
Well said. That's awesome. That's a great answer. All right, next up, and this is importantly true for a fitness professional like you, habits are the foundation for success. What would you say, Anthony, would be a habit that has been really instrumental in your success that you've acquired, over the last 10 years or so?
Exercise. I used to work out 3 times a week, and I thought that I was really, really happy doing that. And it is really good.
Yeah.
But then I had a workout buddy, and I would add my 4th day a week, and I felt really, really good. And then I got a different workout buddy, and I added a 5th day a week, and I felt even better. And I think that as fitness professionals, we're so busy working other people's fitness that we neglect our own fitness. And I want to say you need to value your own fitness and health. And now I have allotted time in my calendar that says my workout. And I know that with a workout buddy, I will absolutely succeed. Because sometimes it's easy to be like, I'm too busy today if it's just myself working out. But if I have a workout buddy, I'm not going to let down that workout buddy, and I will show up.
And that's the value of boot camp. That's the value of group training.
Absolutely. 100%.
And man, that is so true. I feel like working out is the gateway drug. It opens up so many aspects to your life. And to your point about business entrepreneurs and fitness business owners, sometimes that can be a casualty. It's never happened to me because I have, for whatever reason, I've really stayed strong with my fitness and exercise. But I hear it quite often that sometimes that goes out the window, which is catastrophic. So,
and if they're a Fit Body Boot Camp, it's 30 minutes of your day. Get into your own boot camp is a great way to build a relationship
and create that culture. Man.
Absolutely,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple for you left. The second to last one is just about learning and growth, and we've talked about that. That has been a topic of conversation today. What would you say is an incredible book recommendation you can make to our fitness franchise podcast nation that will better their lot in life or business?
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Amen to that. And for those of you who don't know, we just came out with the new coaches onboarding playbook, and that piece of content, that book is the first reading for all new coaches. Just so instrumental on building relationship, connection. And really, if you're coaching, you're needing to influence your clients to live a healthy and better lifestyle. So you need to be able to influence yourself.
And the cool thing about that book is we were talking about my wife, like you want to have a good relationship with your spouse and your business partner for life. So knowing how to speak to somebody is very important.
Oh yeah, totally. All right, last question, man. This has been awesome. You've added such a ton of value to our audience today. What would be your last piece of parting wisdom to our audience who's interested in fitness and business and entrepreneurship? Maybe they're on the fence. They've thought about opening a facility, and for whatever reason they haven't. What would be your best parting piece of advice that will better their lot in fitness and business and entrepreneurship?
So in terms of fitness business, I would say learning your team's strengths. So each one of my team members has their zone of genius, and I look to find what those zone of geniuses are so that I can delegate properly to each person's particular strengths. And so what's good for them is they get something that they like, and what's good for me is I know that it will be done right.
Cool. Amen to that. Well, Anthony Parisi, my friend, it has been awesome. Before we shoot for today, where can our audience connect with you?
Yes, thank you. So I'm on Instagram, Mr. Anthony Parisi, which is similar to what you used to be.
Yep.
So influenced by you. So Mr. Anthony Parisi on Instagram, and then our location on Facebook is Thousand Oaks Fit Body Boot Camp.
Awesome. That's where you can connect with Anthony. And my friend, before we shoot for today, I just want to take a second to acknowledge you. Man, it's been great, being friends with you for a better part of over a half a decade, being on this mission, this journey together. You're all heart, you're all passion, and it's just been really inspiring. I can't believe it's been so long already that we've been on this journey, but it's incredible to see the success that we both had.
Well, right back at you, man. I remember you were one of the first Fit Body owners I spoke to, and you were definitely one of the first locations I saw, and you have an amazing location. You had the warehouse, and I was like, I need a warehouse. And so actually now I'm in a warehouse. So lots of influence from you, so thank you.
Heck yeah, man. Well, friends, I know you had an incredible time listening to this episode. I got a ton of value. I know you did as well. And assuming you did, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and write us an awesome review on iTunes. That way we can keep producing this content for you for free. So that's all for today. And again, Anthony, thanks, my friend.
Thank you.